Well, is this everyone that's going to be here? We are running a few minutes late.
We thought we might have had a couple of more guests, but we've got Jim, so we don't need anybody else.
Okay. We're glad to have you, Joe. As I normally do, I open up the meeting. It's officially open. Typically, I read our mission statement, and we'll start off with that. The mission of Golden Speakers is to create a supportive and positive learning environment in which each member has the opportunity to develop communication and leadership skills, which foster self-confidence and personal growth. I have taken the liberty to find a few quotes from women, and when these quotes that I've given, Dan wanted me to give who they were in life. This is from Florence Nightingale. Her quote is, "Never give nor take an excuse." She is credited for the founding of nursing. The next person is, "I was a person with dignity and self-respect, and I should not set my sights lower than anybody else just because I'm Black." And this is Rosa Parks. And she is famous because she refused to vacate her seat for a white person. And she's a civil rights activist. And the last one is, "Fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that you will lead others to join you." And this is Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Supreme Court Justice. And we are going to pass this over to our Toastmaster this evening, Mrs. Alex Gibbons. Take it away, Alex.
Thanks, Mr. President of Education, fellow Toastmasters, and our honored guests. I'm very excited about our meeting tonight. We'll have a prepared speech by Bob Fogel and have a round of table topics with the theme of mothers. And I'm sure Kartik has prepared some exciting questions for us. But first, I'll start by introducing our role players tonight. I'll start with our timer, Dan Craig. Could you please explain your role?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. My role as timer is to keep track of all the speaking roles that occur during the meeting and to give signals so that the speakers know where they are. For the prepared speech, that's going to be 5 to 7 minutes. I'll give a green signal at 5, a yellow signal at 6, and a red at 7. And as with all the speaking roles that occur, there's a 30-second grace period after the red card where a speaker can finish up and still be what we call qualified, that is within time that they've been allowed. We'll have table topics, which are 1 to 2 minute speeches. That'll be a green at 1, a yellow at 1:30, a red at 2, and 30-second grace period. Evaluators, 2 to 3 minutes for the speeches. That's 2 green, 2.5 yellow, red is 3. And the table topics evaluator may be slightly different, but it follows the same pattern. I'll keep track of those times and I'll give a report at the end of the meeting.
Thank you so much, Dan. Our next role player will be our grammarian, which will be Art Arkinson. Art, could you please tell us about your role?
Yes, thank you, Madam Toastmaster. As grammarian, I have 2 functions this evening. One is to listen to everyone who speaks and note down any particularly colorful or successful words or turns of phrase, or any that need correction, should any of that happen. The other function that I have is to present the word of the evening. And in keeping with our theme, I have chosen the word matriarch. Which I just put in the chat. And the adjective form matriarchal would be acceptable usage. Back to you. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Art. Our next role player will be our counter, which is Sean tonight. Could you please explain your role to us?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters, and our honored guests. Tonight, my role as a counter will be simply to count words such as but, so, you know, and I'll be keeping good records, excellent records, since I have to double back from Jean from last week to make sure we catch every single one. And that is my role for this evening. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Sean. Dan will be our general evaluator, and he will lead us through the evaluation process, and he will also be evaluating our evaluators after our table topics round. And Sean will also be our joke master for tonight, and he will make us laugh at the end of the meeting. And I will now pass the meeting to Jean, who will be evaluating Bob's speech so she can read to us the objectives of his project.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Bob is doing an elective project in level 4. Is that right, Bob?
It's a level 3, Jean.
In team collaboration. Is that right?
No, I sent the thing. It changed to level 3 because I didn't have it completed my level 3. I sent it on to Dan. I will read it for you.
Well, I've got it here. I've got this. It just doesn't, it's not really clear. So you could just tell me your path that you're working in tonight is presentation mastery. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And this is a level 3
This is a
project.
level 3 project.
Okay. So this is an elective that Bob has chosen to work on, having completed his required projects. I believe that is the case, Bob. So this elective is called Focus on the Positive.
Yes.
And the purpose of this is for the member to practice being aware of his thoughts and feelings, as well as the impact of his responses on others. And the purpose of this speech is for the member to share their experience on completing the project. I am reading from the evaluation resource. It's a little hazy to me what Bob has had to go through, but this is what I'm gathering is that during this project, Bob recorded negative responses that he was having in a personal journal and then worked to reframe them in a positive way. I mean, how many of us would like to be able to do that effectively? Turn the negatives into the positive. So I will be listening for ways that Bob is going to be telling us about this experience and what he learned, how did he grow or did he not grow from that experience? And he's not required to get into any details, but just overall, that is what he's trying to do. And I'm very curious and interested to see how Bob completes this project. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Jean. So I'll now introduce our speaker of the night. Bob has been a member of Toastmasters for 2 years, and he has been the president of our club for the past year. He owns and runs his own company called Fogo Basement Repair, and he was just recently, a few months ago, he was just recently married. So please join me in welcoming Bob.
I need a change in my attitude. So I told my best friend I didn't want to hang around so much. Why? Because of all the negative effects, sleepless nights, depressive thoughts. I even went to the doctor and told me that I was borderline diabetic and at risk for heart problems. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, honorable guests, viewers at home. On the 1st of May, I decided to journal my weight and my mood and my attitude of the day. As I stated, it was time for a change. I finally pulled the plug on my old friend, the TV, and just like that, it was silent. What was I gonna do? I know. Pen in hand, paper, I'm gonna check off my honey-do list. Well, after I got through that, I still have time on my hands. And wanting to improve my attitude, I decided to take my dog for a walk on a regular basis. In addition to that, I found my mood changing slowly but surely. But truth be told, I was kind of missing my old friend, the TV. But I decided to stick to my goal because I was ready for a positive attitude change. Did you know that if you just walk 10 blocks a day, that's 4 miles a week, that's 200 miles a year. That's like walking from here to Des Moines and back. I found typically most people have mild to severe arthritis, and it can give a person a bad attitude, in addition that they don't want to exercise. However, but I found that walking regularly strengthens my joints, my muscle, and my bones. And that affects my arthritis to improve, not to mention the amazing effects on stress relief. I also found that my mood was changing by changing it into a more relaxing mood. That when I tracked through the woods, I found that my mood was even amplified more when I walked through the wooded areas or the parks. Another benefit is I ran into a few old friends out there. The great part about that is I got to catch up on the local gossip. Aha. One thing for sure is typically everybody I ran into out there had a smile on their face. If anything, they just stopped and said, "Hey, how you doing? This walking was great." In my research for the benefits of walking, I found that exercising 150 minutes a week, 3 hours a week, increased your life expectancy by 30%. That's a big 30%. Women walking just 4 miles per hour increased their life expectancy to those who did not by 15 years. And gentlemen, our average lifespan increased 20 years by walking. My recommendation, go grab your partner and hit the dusty trails. I did find out in life, whether watching TV or walking, we can get ourselves into a rut because our nature is to become routine oriented. So I recommend, as well as the experts, is to change up your walking location or destinations. And it's good to change the pace at which we walk. I'll give you an example. When you got to race to the bathroom or slow down after you leave, you keep that in mind and you'll keep it down pat. This technique keeps you from falling into the routine. It aids for a quicker weight loss and improved mental stability. Now, I'm speaking to all who are listening to me. However, I'm speaking specifically to my fellow Toastmasters. Reason being is because by exercising and walking, your creativity increases a whopping 60% more by just doing simple walking. As to not condemn watching TV, I just want to put it in perspective. I have a nice pickup truck, but I don't sit in it for 6 hours a day in the garage. In this speech, I learned there's 3 things that came about because as the first one would be is I feel more in control on how my attitude and how my mood is improving. Number 2, as I sleep better, and I find that I'm losing a few pounds. Number 3, I feel motivated and want to inspire others just to get out and walk. Another thing I do recommend, when you start your journey, snap a pic, document your weight, and continue through. And in your journal, and you can watch your success go from success to a success, and you want to share with others as you watch your mental and your physical improve. And like my old friend, the TV, it's time to unplug my speech.
Thanks, Bob. Beautiful speech, beautiful delivery. I will ask Dan, our timer, to give us 2 minutes so we can write in the chat our feedback to Bob.
That is 2 minutes.
Thanks, Dan. Let me see here. I'll now check with Jean, see if she's ready. Jean, would you like to do the evaluation now or later?
I'm almost there, but I think I could use just maybe on the other side of table topics.
Sounds good. All right. So in this case, I'll now pass the meeting to our table topics master tonight, who is Kartik. Kartik, take it on.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and my dear guests. I have 8 questions with me. I would like a volunteer for the table topic tonight, which is mothers. I'm not wrong. With that being said, can I know the volunteer who is up front for, yes. Art, I have numbers 1 through 8. Please let me know your preference. 2, okay. Question is, how often do you speak with your mom, and why is that frequency? Like if it's, less or high. How often do you speak or have you spoken with your mom? Why is that frequency?
I speak to my mom, passed away 2 years ago. I speak to her as often now, in fact, even more often than when she was alive. Thank you, Master Table Beverage Master. In the last 3 years of her 97 years with us, we developed a routine of Sunday night phone calls. She would call us and regale us with what she had been doing. She could carry on the conversation all by herself. It wasn't necessary for us to introduce any topics. She was so full of activities and goals and opinions. After her passing, we found that we missed the Sunday night connection, but we keep so many reminders of her around us. You can see several of them behind me on the walls right now. Her artwork is constantly fascinating to look at. And I talk to her about the pieces and about questions that I have. So I talk to her as frequently or more frequently than I did before. Thanks for the question.
Thank you, Art, for sharing about your late night or Sunday night calls with your mom. Thanks for sharing your experience. Next volunteer, please. I'm not seeing a hand here.
I was going to let Jim know that you don't have to be a member to take a question if you want. You certainly don't have to, but
Okay, first, Jean has raised, so I'd like to go with Jean first.
you're on mute, Jim. You're on
Yes.
mute.
Okay.
Okay, so Jean, I have questions 1 through 8 except 2. So 1, 3 to 8.
Okay. 4.
4. Can you share us a memorable experience with your mother? Can you share us a memorable experience with your mother?
Mom, you need to be a student. You've been a teacher all your life, but you need to be a student in this case. Fellow Toastmasters, Mr. Toastmaster, Mr. Table Topics Master and honored guests. This was me talking to my mom in 2020. It was her last year of life. She died at the beginning of December. And she had decided that this smartphone was just something she couldn't use. Her fingers were a bit arthritic and she'd touch it and it would call people she didn't want to call. She was so frustrated with it. I said, and I'm in Iowa, she's in Atlanta. no problem. We can do this, Mom. So I said, Mom, let's just get you a very simple phone. You just want to be able to call people, get calls coming in, and look at your voicemails. And that's what you want. She says, yes, I hate this fancy phone. So her caregiver, Maggie, who I got very close to that year, we worked out a plan. Said, Maggie, you take that smartphone. We'll let you have that one. I'm going to order a regular flip phone. It's got big letters for older people, and we're going to teach her how to use it. Got that in motion. The phone showed up. My mom was a career teacher. She was very highly placed. She taught advanced placements and science at a private school. She had always been a teacher, and she was pretty firm, and she knew her material. And in this case, as Maggie started trying to teach her, Maggie, who had always been her caregiver, my mom would go, no, Maggie, that's not right. Blah, 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 and just was like giving Maggie such a hard time. And I was hearing about it. So I talked to my mom. I said, Mom, I have worked out a curriculum, a syllabus for Maggie. She's going to be teaching you. Most importantly, you need to be a student this time. Maggie's going to be the teacher. Be a good student, Mom. I love the way that I worked with my mom on that. And she understood it right away. Yes, Jean, you're right.
Thank you, Jean, for sharing your experience.
Mm-hmm.
Next. I'd like to volunteer, please. Jim, Dan.
Well, now that I'm not muted
Okay.
anymore, it's funny. I did the Zoom thing for work for months, from March of 2020 until September when I retired. And I was able to navigate the intricacies. We didn't use Zoom. We used a similar mechanism, and I had no problem with it. But I don't do this very often anymore. So pick one for me. Say, you said you had 8 of them. Of course, you're not nice enough to tell us what they are. Some of them
That's
are going to be easier than others. So,
That's right.
So let's say number 6, just to grab a number out of the air.
Okay.
Has that already been done?
No, it's not done. So what is something you have learned from your mother? What is something you have learned from your mother?
Oh, goodness. So many things. I learned how to, I suppose I should address the Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and I'm the honored guest, so I guess I don't have to refer to myself. It's nice to be considered honored. I think I learned mostly from my mother how to be honest and genuine. My mother had many wonderful abilities, but perhaps uppermost was her ability to judge people right away and accurately. She could see through a phony in a minute. And whenever I was confronted by a decision of some sort, I would use the WWJD method, which is what would Jean do? My mother's name was Jean, incidentally. And that's right. And that would always guide me through. Now, to be honest, my father had a lot of judgment too, but my mother was an expert in ferreting out phonies and at the same time ferreting out people who are genuine and honest. And I think I learned that, to the extent that I have that ability, I think I learned that from my mom.
Thank you, Jim.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for the
for
opportunity.
sharing. Yes, thank you for sharing your thoughts and on what you learned from your mom. Okay, I have a few more questions. Any more volunteers? Or do we still have time for us to timer? Dan?
Alex is a Toastmaster.
I thought I should ask timer. Okay. Anyway, Alex
No,
or Dan.
Alex is the ringmaster.
Yes, Kartik, I believe we still have 10 more minutes, right? Maybe a little less because now we have Jean doing the evaluation for Bob. So
We could probably do 2 more.
more.
Okay. Dan, Bob, Alex, Sean. Can I get volunteer from one of you guys?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, Dan.
Bob,
Have one.
Bob, could you time me, please?
Yes.
Okay, what are my choices?
I have 1, 3, 5, 6, and 8.
How about 3?
3. Okay. What is your favorite memory with your mother? What is your favorite memory with your mother?
Thank you, Mr. Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, honored guest. My favorite memory of my mother was near the end of her life. She had been a widow for quite a while and had been continuing to live in Texas, where our family was based. But when she was about 80 years old, she came to Fairfield, and she was in a nursing home here called Parkview. There had been a lot of years where I had just occasional contact with my mother. I wasn't very good about calling her or writing her or any of that sort of thing. But when she made it to Fairfield and was in that nursing home, I made it a point to try to contact her regularly. And I can't quite remember what the schedule was, but it seems like most days what I was trying to do was drive over and pick her up and take her to Chautauqua Park with me in the car, and we'd sit there while I'd eat my lunch. Then I'd take her back to Parkview, and then I'd head back to work. So in that way, we had quite a bit of time together. We didn't talk about any amazing things, I don't think, but it was just nice to spend the time with her in a pleasant setting. We're sitting there in all the trees. She, by the way, grew up in a part of Texas that had a lot of pine trees. It was called the East Texas, sometimes called the Piney Woods. So she felt relaxed and happy to get out of her room and go sit among the trees and just chat with me. So that's my fondest memory of my mother.
Thank you, Dan. I have one more question. Any more volunteers, please?
Sean had his hand raised. Mhm.
Sean? Yes, Sean. I have question 1, 5, 6, and 8.
Let's go with number 1.
1. Okay. How has your mother shaped you as who you are today? How has your mother shaped you as who you are today?
Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. I think the biggest thing with Mom was her acts of service. And it's still fresh. My mom just passed away about 6 months ago. So, but she got so much joy being kind and helpful to not only, us as kids growing up, to my father, but neighbors, people that I just could never understand why she was nice to, because, she was nice to Joey's mom, but Joey's dad was kind of a jerk. And it's like, it doesn't make sense to me as a teenager. But as I've gotten older and have my own kids and now have adult children, I really have understood acts of service and how even maybe I don't want to do something, but if I do something knowing that it's helping the other person, or that's really their natural love language, as I'm learning about the 5 love languages, which has been interesting in and of itself. I see that was my mom's natural love language, was acts of service. So for her, it was easy. And for me, sometimes it's easy, but other days, especially after I've been on the road, like I am all this week in Texas, and, I'm not having acts of service. I'm not doing any acts of service. I'm getting service everywhere I go. But when I come home, then it's got to be, I got to switch gears. And so I think that's the biggest thing I learned was acts of service, and love language can make a huge difference in those you love.
Thank you, Sean. It was very emotional experience sharing. Thank you. And I would like to pass on to Madam Toastmaster Alex.
Thank you so much, Karthik. Thank you so much for all these wonderful questions. So now I will, you can share with me in the chat. You can send a message directly to me with your favorite speaker of the night.
Oh.
Dan, go ahead. Oh, yes. Which speaker qualifies?
There's the unmute button.
There you go. It took me a minute.
Our qualifying table topic speakers were Jean, Jim, Dan, and Sean. Jean, Jim, Dan, and Sean.
Thank you so much. So now you can send me a message with your favorite speaker. You can write TT in front of it and send directly to me. While this is happening, I am the evaluator for the table topics. Jean, would you like to go first, or would you like me to go first?
What would you recommend?
I'm okay with either or.
Is it better to have table topics evaluation right after table topics so everybody remembers?
Yeah, I think that's a very good
Because
suggestion.
everybody's kind of forgotten from me about this point. But anyway, okay.
All right. Perfect.
Dan?
Another quick thing from me.
Mhm.
Bob, I'm the general evaluator, so it's going to be hard for me to time and listen to the evaluators. So could you time the 2 evaluators?
For sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And I have 5.
You want Alex?
So 3 to 4?
3 to 4. Okay. All right. So I will start with Art, who was our first speaker of the night. And he got the question, how often do you speak with your mom and what's the frequency? And Art took a few minutes to elaborate his answer. He started by saying that even after his mother passed away, he speaks with her with even more frequency now than when she was alive. I really like, and this is something that I see Art doing a lot, and I always appreciate watching him delivering a speech, is that he uses pauses without putting filler words. So his pauses are truly pauses, and he rearranges his speech, and then he gives him time to think about it. He's very comfortable with that. So that's something that I always admire when Art is delivering a speech. And I really like how he does that. And he concluded by looping back into like his answer again, you know, that he speaks with her with more frequency now. The only suggestion that I have for Art is maybe some more vocal variety, just to engage the audience, continue to engage the audience, but great speech. Jean was our next speaker. And her question was, can you share a memorable experience with your mother? And Jean started with a good hook, said, Mom, you need to be a student, which gave us a good understanding that she was about to share a story with us. And that was a great way to introduce the scenario and kept us all engaged. And she used great hand gestures. She really did used a lot gestures, and right here within the window. So that's also very good, and great vocal variety. My only suggestion to Jean, it's about content. That's really the only suggestion that I was able to come up is maybe explain to us why this particular memory, like why did you choose this particular memory? But that was my only suggestion. The next speaker is Jim, which is our guest tonight. And Jim had the question, what is something that you have learned from your mother? And I really like the way that Jim was thoughtful to greet the audience. He did a great job. And he was ready to answer. He said that honesty and good judgments are the two things that he learned from his mother. And that's the way that he structured his speech. And he had great eye contact and clear delivery of his message. So that made it very easy for us to follow him through his speech. My only suggestion to Jim is that before when we receive the question, and this is something that you can use if you'd like or not, when we get the question, you have 30 seconds that you can take to elaborate how you wanted to answer. So that's something that it's nice to use for the next time. Dan had the question, what is your favorite memory with your mother? And he started by greeting the audience. He recalled that his favorite memories with his mother was when she was living here in Fairfield, and they would have lunches together in the park. So Dan elaborated very well the speech. So he recalled the time. He explained when she lived in Texas, and when she moved here, they had more time together. And he concluded by repeating that was his fondest memory. He used great vocal variety, and my only suggestion for him is hand gestures. And the last speaker is Sean. How did your mother shape you as you are today? And you could see that emotion coming very sincerely coming through Sean's, because his mother passed away just a few months ago. My condolences, Sean. But it was beautiful how sincere he shared his emotion. And even with that emotion surfacing, he was able to answer the question and recall that acts of service is the love language of his mother, and that's what he takes on from her. And I had no suggestions for Sean because now I'm over my time. Thank you so much.
Mm.
Thank you, Alex. If it's okay, I'll take over as general evaluator. Our next evaluator is going to be Jean to evaluate Bob's speech. Please take it away, Jean.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, honored guest, still honored even at this point, and of course, Bob. Bob's title, by the way, was Unplugged, which I really like because now that fits in with the beginning. He's unplugging the TV, and at the end, he's unplugging, like his TV, his speech. So shame on me for not having that title out there, because a title is a very powerful way to get the hook in there for the audience. I like that Bob started with he had a before and after, basically. So before, spending too much time with the old friend, and he's got health issues, and just, so that's where we start. That's the baseline. And then he listed a number of benefits that he started to get from walking. Walking as a new introduction to improving himself. What I would like to see from Bob, if he gives this talk again, and I'm an avid walker too, so that's very cool, would be he gave some very useful statistics about longevity, males and females, and what's happening here and there, and it was all very good, and that added credibility to the message he was giving. I would just like him to cite the sources. Where did that source come from? According to the American Walkers Association, or American Medical Association, something that shows, yeah, this is real. The other thing I'd like to encourage is, because he gave so many benefits, and this is almost like something to work on, but also a way to challenge himself, would be, I kept listing benefits, stronger joints and bones, and less arthritis, and mood, and social engagement out there, and increased creativity, the longevity, all of that. So what I would say, just to really nail it home in the conclusion, would be to quickly list the benefits, and to make it simpler for the audience to remember would be to put a couple of I'm going to call them umbrellas under there. So maybe the physical benefits, and then in there could be the joints, stronger bones, less arthritis pain. It could be mental benefits, creativity, for example, or something, clearing your mind. And then maybe emotional, a better mood. And so somehow instead of having a bunch of things, which is harder to remember, you could have 3 main areas and several things under there. It keeps it simpler for the audience to remember. But I think if you're not a walker and you're not inspired to walk after Bob's talk, you're probably meant to be a swimmer or something else, because I thought the walking recommendations that he had were very persuasive. And I also will say, since it looks like I still have time, I would say that I learned something new from Bob this time, because he sent me the project checklist, which is not something you normally have to send. I mean, I said to Dan, well, I don't need the project checklist. I just need the evaluation resource. But it turns out that the project checklist actually has a fair amount of information on what the project entails, more than what was in the evaluation resource. And about the only way I could have gotten more information would have been if Bob sent me the entire project, which we used to do when we had the manual system. You'd send the project to your evaluator so that they know exactly what you've been going through, how you're trying to move, the skills you're learning. So I read that project list, took a little glance at it in here in the meeting, and I saw, oh, so this is what he was doing. This is it. So thank you for that, Bob. Learning a new trick in our pathways evaluation preparation. that doesn't require you to send the whole project, but sends a checklist. So I am humbled and grateful that I now know how to get more information about the project. Back to you, Mr. Journal Evaluator.
Thank you, Jean. I don't know if anybody was timing you.
I did.
Oh, did you? I didn't see any cards.
I will. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I was
Oh,
looking at
girl.
Dan. I was
Okay, my
looking-
question is.
Okay, that's right. Dan was not going to do it because he had to do evaluating of me. So
Well, I'm glad you're on the ball, Bob. Can you tell us of our two evaluators, which evaluator qualified?
They were both great evaluators.
Okay, thank you for that positive spin.
Okay.
I think you're telling me that if they were to do this again, they ought to do it quicker.
well, okay. So I'm going to raise an objection
Okay,
Okay. It was my fault.
because I didn't see any cards.
No, you did not. I was. Yeah.
I mean, we've
apologize.
all done it, but I think
Yeah.
I think our rule is you get a pass if you
Yes, you
didn't
did.
get any
Yeah.
signaling.
Yes.
I had a feeling, Gene, that
You did pass, Gene, and I apologize because after you got done, you said a few thank yous, and I didn't hit the stop button, so you did qualify.
Well, again,
Okay.
if you don't give me any cards, I feel free to.
Yes, you are.
I feel free
Okay.
to just not go on forever, but okay. That's my point.
Okay.
all right, very good. Well, I think we won't vote, but I have a strong feeling that I know who the winner was. At this point, we're going to have our meeting reports. I'm going to give the timers report, and at the end, I'll ask Bob to give the times on the two evaluators. Bob's speech was 6 minutes and 40 seconds. In the table topics, Art 2 minutes 36, Jean 2:26, Jim 1:24, Dan 2:23, Sean 2:16, and then Bob. What were the evaluator times?
Alex was 5 minutes 1 second, and James was 4 minutes 34 seconds.
Okay. Very good. Our next role player that we'd like to hear from is our grammarian, Art.
Jim used a very colorful phrase. He said it was ferreting out the phone. Bob pronounced the word regular. He said regular. I didn't hear the word matriarch used by anybody. So it's a bust. That's my report.
Thank you, Art. Our awe counter tonight is Sean. Please give us your report, Sean.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator and my fellow Toastmasters. I'm happy to report that Bob only had 2 buts and 2 ands in his speech. Jean had 2 so's and 2 ands. And Dan had 1 and. And that's it.
I'd say we're an amazing group. back to you again, Sean. Have you got a joke for us, please?
Oh boy. So I want you all, I mean, we're all old enough, except maybe Karthik, to remember Seinfeld, Jerry Seinfeld, right? So I want you to get the music playing in your mind, the Seinfeld opening music, okay? Because I took a leap of faith and I had ChatGTP that's making all the rage and OpenAI and everybody's saying how it's going to take our jobs. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to have ChatGTP write me a couple of jokes in the words of Jerry Seinfeld. And I got 2 for you, okay? So cue the music. Jerry Seinfeld's on stage, and he says, mothers have this uncanny ability to give you advice you didn't even ask for. They're like walking encyclopedias of unsolicited wisdom. You'll be talking about something completely unrelated, like the weather, and out of nowhere, your mom will chime in with, you should really start eating more vegetables, you know. Thanks, Mom, but I was just talking about the rain.
That's a little scary, isn't it? The whole ChatGPT thing.
Yeah, it is. And so she wrote me one more, okay? And here you go. Moms are the true masters of guilt tripping. They have this Jedi mind trick where they can make you feel bad about anything. You could win the Olympic gold medal and your mom will say, that's great, honey. But remember when you were 7 and you didn't finish your broccoli? It's like they have a mental highlight reel of all your childhood mishaps ready to be played at any moment. Mothers, they keep you humble.
Thank you, Sean.
You're welcome.
I'm giving a speech next week, and it's going to have something to do with AI. So
Oh,
I had to
awesome.
research a topic. We'll see what comes out.
I thought the speech is gonna be written by ChatGPT.
Okay, I'll do it that way. And then I'll just let ChatGPT read it. Okay, at this point in the meeting, it's time for me to evaluate the evaluators. This is my general evaluator report. We had 2 great evaluators tonight. Alex evaluating the table topics, Jean evaluating Bob's speech. The thing that I noticed first about Alex and her evaluation is that she likes to really make the person that she's evaluating feel good immediately. In several of the evaluations, she began by saying, I really like that, which is kind of an uplifting thing to do. The person really wants to hear what she has to say now because they feel good right from the beginning. She had good suggestions, things like a conclusion that looped back or vocal variety, things regarding delivery. In Jim's case, she suggested that he think about his response for the 30 seconds that he's allowed. So a number of good suggestions. I think the only suggestion that I have for Alex, which is strange coming from me, is to budget your time. You all know that that's a very hypocritical thing for me to say. But at the end, you ran out of gas, you ran out of time. Otherwise, just a wonderful job. Thanks, Alex. Jean gave a really wonderful evaluation for Bob's speech. I like that she clarified how his speech title tied into what he began with, talking about doing away with the TV and how he rapped back and said, now I'm going to unplug my speech. I sat there and listened to the speech. I didn't catch that. So thanks for that clear listening, that clear elaboration of that. I liked when she was giving suggestion to Bob, and instead of saying something that I really think you ought to do better, the way she phrased it was, if you were going to do this speech, what I would like to see you try. It matters the way you phrase your wording, and it comes across much nicer. And then I thought her suggestions to Bob regarding organization were excellent, that he have some main categories and then list his benefits under those categories, physical and mental. And she explained that would be clearer for the audience. So that was a good reminder to us all that we're really should be thinking most of all about how our speech impacts our audience, how that interface with them goes. So wonderful evaluation from Jean. I liked her delivery, her use of gestures, her vocal variety. I don't think that I would have suggested anything in particular for her. I'll just close by saying that in Golden Speakers Toastmaster, it's clear that Jean is the matriarch, and it's good for us. Good for us to learn her wisdom. That's my report. I'm going to send it back to Alex for the awards.
That was so smooth. Thanks, Jen.
And finally, a person used the word matriarch.
Yeah.
All right. So we had a wonderful and fun meeting tonight. Thanks, Bob, for sharing the inspiring speech. And Karthik for the great variety of questions that you gave to us during table topics. And thanks to our honored guests for the participation. And with that, I will turn to our president, Bob Fogel.
Awards.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, that's right.
Oh, no. Yeah, I guess does Bob do the awards? I can't remember all of a sudden.
No, I will do the awards.
Toastmasters, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
It is the favorite part of our meetings to deliver the awards. So tonight we'll have 3 awards. So let's do some drum rolls here for the best speaker of the night. And that goes to Bob Fogel. All right. Our second award is for this best speaker of table topics. So let's just drum roll again. That was going to be Sean. And the award for the best evaluator. Let's drum rolls here. Who might be? It's G.
Matriarch, right?
The matriarch. Okay, so now I'll turn the meeting over to our president, Bob Fogel.
Thank you, Alex. Wonderful job being a Toastmaster. And thank everyone for everyone including today. It was a wonderful meeting today. I don't have any really words of wisdom other than we shared for our officer meeting. We're going to be changing our roles here. That's coming up soon. And I need to send an email out to everybody. Dan sent me over a list of the 7 offices, and I can't quote them off the top of my head. Maybe Dan can. But in the meantime, I will get those out. And there'll be certain qualifications, how long you've been in Toastmasters, whether you qualify, and things of that nature, but we'll spell that out in the email. And we'll be going from there. Other than that,
So are we meeting
I almost forgot.
Zoom? tomorrow?
What's that?
Tomorrow, we're going to have an officers meeting.
Yeah, we are.
I think we talked about trying to hash out our recommended list of for the new officers.
The new offices, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's 8 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah. Technically, we don't have the right to use that time slot, but I think we'll just sign on. And if for some reason it's being used already, we'll just, I'll just send out a link and we'll have a 40-minute free meeting and repeat if necessary. But let's just try the existing link first.
Okay. All right.
So, Bob, I won't be available tomorrow for the officers meeting.
Okay. Well, then we can fill you in at a
Mhm,
different time.
that's okay.
All right. And can we have the date again for when we're meeting everybody? Or I guess we need to ask Sean. Should I close the meeting first and then deal with everything? Ask these questions.
Well, we're doing
gotta-
club business. We have 4 minutes.
Okay. How about when we're gonna meeting? I mean, Sean was gonna ask Sue about the possible availability of the church we're going to.
Right. Yeah, she has not talked to the board. They haven't all been present, and they're preparing for their chamber event, which is on June 1st at 5 o'clock. And of course, you're all invited to that too. It's an open house. There'll be wine and hors d'oeuvres, or there was wine last year. I'm assuming there will be this year too.
So you don't have to be a chamber member?
No, it's open to the public. Anyone really can go to chamber after hours. A lot of people just don't, or they don't realize they can crash the party.
So 5 o'clock.
Yes, but I did tell her I was inviting everyone here, and of course she knows y'all anyway, so
Mhm.
that's great. And then she is going to mention it. She thinks they'll be fine with it, I told them that I could even make a donation to on behalf of the club, whatever. She said that wasn't really necessary. She thinks they'll be fine with it, but I should be able to confirm, hopefully, because what is the date? Is it June?
June 10th.
June 10th, yeah.
June 10th. Alex, are you able to come to an end of the Toastmaster year meeting, party? On June 10th, it's a Saturday. And
Saturday, June 10th.
Yeah.
And we were thinking the, kind of the noon hour.
Yeah,
So you always seem to, if you have advance notice, you seem to be able to possibly work things around. Is that good for you?
So we'll be around noon.
Yeah.
Mhm.
On June the
Saturday.
10th.
All right, yeah, so I will make a note here on my calendar, and that week I can take the class during the week instead of the weekend.
Yeah. And Karthik, you were in on that discussion last week, weren't you?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
okay.
was.
yeah,
So we're all good there. Okay.
we're all good. And Jim, if you and Betsy want to fly in from Boston, we'd love to have you.
Maybe on our way to, we're actually going to Nashville this weekend.
Okay.
So
Oh.
to see the granddaughter. So maybe on our way, we'll stop in.
A slight detour, yeah.
Right.
I thought you were going to say the Grand Ole Opry.
Oh, we've been to the Grand Ole Opry, but this is a granddaughter, a different grand.
Yeah.
And I almost forgot. Did anyone, we'd like to give it up for recognition. Did you invite anyone to Toastmasters this evening? Raise your hands.
Well, certainly Sean did.
Well,
Did?
yeah,
Bob
Yeah.
did? Yeah.
we're working on 2 people that obviously didn't make it tonight, but Alex, you got the email that I copied you on for that. Cynthia
Yeah.
and Jennifer.
Yeah.
Jennifer reached out, and Cynthia I should see walking around. So
Mhm.
I'll just figure that out. But
Yeah, Jen, actually, she works with me. And so she reached out, but because I was
Oh.
busy, yeah, she did send me a message. But last week I was very busy with the assignments from the course that I saw the email. I didn't have the chance to reply to her, but then I saw the email that she sent to you. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, I reached out to her today and I sent her the link.
Okay, good.
Good.
Yeah, good. All right.
I will be having one. This lady, her name's Kimmy Hoya. She's a realtor out of Iowa City. She will be joining us.
Okay,
So I'll send her to you, Alex, to get her registered.
okay.
Perfect.
Okay, well, it's 9:00. Now you could end the meeting, Bob, and then we could, those who are having too much fun to hang up can go a little bit longer, but
9 o'clock.